Hi, I'm Jara from Biodome, and I'm here today for our first part of our multi-part series about hydroponics at home. We're teaching you exactly how you can grow fresh fruits, vegetables, herbs, and microgreens in the convenience of your own home using science. So we're going to teach you about hydroponics. If you don't know about hydroponics, we have a video linked in the description that explains what hydroponics is. We also have a video that explains the different types of hydroponics, as well as the difference between hydroponics, aeroponics, and aquaponics. Today, we're starting with the most simple form of hydroponics. That's called the Kratky method. There are 5 key forms of hydroponics. This one is a set it and forget it type method where you're going to set everything up for it once, and then your plants are going to grow, and when it's done, you'll have fresh plants ready to harvest. This works great for lettuces and herbs, and you can do it with many of the items that you probably have at your own house. Let's go over what you're going to need to be able to do the Kratky method at home. So the first thing you're going to need is some form of a container. A mason jar works amazingly. You don't need one that's this big, but any sort of can or jar or tray even will work in order to be able to do this method. You just need something that's going to be able to hold water and going to be able to hold up your plant and your substrate that you're using. The next thing that we're going to need is a net pot and a plant collar. You can get by with using just about anything as a plant collar. You can cut up a pool noodle, you can use styrofoam, you can use any sort of foam that you would like to, and that will work just fine. You don't actually have to go out and buy a plant collar like this one, but you will need a net pot or at least something that will be able to hold your plant and allow its root systems to go down and into your water. Then you'll need a substrate. This is specifically called rock wool. This is made for growing plants hydroponically. You could also potentially use soil. You could use clay pebbles, or you could use something like coco coir, where you could just take and fill up your net pot with, like this, and you're good to go there. Then you're going to need seeds of whatever plant you're going to grow, water, and hydrogen peroxide to clean out and sterilize whatever it is that you're growing with. pH up, pH down can be helpful, not necessarily needed, but if you have extremely hard water at your home, then it can definitely be helpful to help balance out that pH level. And lastly, we have it in giant jugs over here, but this is our 3-part nutrient solution. We specifically use general hydroponics, but there are any number of hydroponic nutrients that you could use for this method. When you're choosing a container, you typically want to choose a container that is BPA free, so you don't want any harmful plastic chemicals leaching into your water, into the roots, and up and into the plants. You definitely don't want to be eating that. And additionally, if you're using a mason jar or something that's opaque, you want to make sure that it's covered. You can either paint it black so that no light gets in. You could cover it with a black sock. You could use your arts and crafts skills and cover it with something else, whether that's craft paper or anything along those lines. But you want to make sure that no light can get into the water, because that's how you're going to get algae growth, and that's going to harm your plant, or it's just going to be disgusting. Either way, you don't really want it. Okay, let's talk about water and nutrients that you're going to need in order to do the Kratky method. So you can use tap water from your house. The average tap water in the United States is a pH of about 7. You want your pH to be 5.5 to 6.5, preferably in that 6 to 6.5 pH level range. And if you mix the appropriate amount of nutrients into tap water, that should put you there. You probably won't need to test your pH. Again, unless you happen to have really hard water in your area, or just an unusual pH or something with your tap water, then you may want to test it, and you may need to use pH up or pH down in order to figure that out. But in regards for this, we've got our 3-part nutrient solution mixed here. We've got our Flora Micro, Flora Bloom, and Flora Grow all mixed into our little container here. We're using a 5 milliliter, 5 milliliter, 5 milliliter solution ratio, and this is going to be per every gallon of water that you're using. This mason jar is a half-gallon mason jar, so we've got 2.5 milliliters in here, and we're going to go ahead and mix that into the water that we're going to use for our hydroponics here. And then you're going to need to take your substrate, and you need to soak your substrate in the water with the nutrients for 24 to 48 hours. And this is going to bring the pH of your rock wool or your coco coir or whatever substrate you're using to the proper pH to start to grow your plants. So this is going to go in, and that'll be left there to soak for 24 to 48 hours. So now that we've got our rock wool soaking for 24 to 48 hours, we're going to take and we're going to set up our mason jar in order to be able to do this. The nice thing with most standard sized mason jars is that it will fit a net pot right there over top of it. And then you can just take the lid and you can actually screw it on, and you're good to go there. Now it's all ready to go. And then you're going to take your rock wool. It's going to sit in your net pot, just like that. And then you're ready to fill this thing up with water and your nutrient mixture. Okay, so now you can see we have our jar nice and full, and we want to fill this water line right up to where it's touching the rock wool at the bottom there. And so we've got our rock wool, and we can actually soak the rock wool directly in there in 24 to 48 hours, as long as it's in contact with your water and nutrient solution. It will uptake enough that it's able to soak properly. You may want to leave it on close to the 48-hour mark. If you have it lower on the rock wool, or if it's just barely touching, it's probably going to take longer to actually fully absorb. If it's a little higher up the rock wool, you can leave it for a little less time because it'll suck in quicker. And then once we have it at this point, then we're ready to go ahead and we're going to put our seeds right into our rock wool or our substrate, whatever it is that we're using here. So let's go ahead and do it. Once your plant starts to show green, like this one here, you're going to want to put it in a nice sunny area or use an artificial grow light. And as we can see here, what's happened is the water has gone down with the nutrients in it, and we can see a nice little air gap in between where the plant roots are and then the water. So part of the plant roots are in the water and part of the plant roots are hanging in air. The plant does need to uptake oxygen in order to be able to continue to grow and thrive. So in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, we're going to see a nice, beautiful basil plant from this Kratky method right here. This has been your episode of Hydroponics at Home, where we learned all about the Kratky method of growing hydroponics. This set it and forget it method is fantastic for lettuces and herbs. And if you want to, you can even every 2 weeks change out this water and just put it back to a level where you've got about 1 inch to 2 inches worth of air gap between the roots and the water, and your plants will continue to grow and thrive with this method. Anyhow, I'm Jera with Biodome. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow us on our other platforms at biodome.company, and come back and join us for another episode in the future where we go over the other methods of hydroponics and how you could do those at home as well.